The scent of aged wood and simmering tea clung to the air in the tiny shop known as the Heavenly Fate Pavilion. Outside, the bustling streets of Lingxiao City hummed with life, but inside, a quiet order reigned, dictated by the young man behind the divination table, Xiao Fan. He was a fortune teller, but not just any soothsayer hawking vague predictions. He followed a single, immutable rule: 3 fortunes a day, no more, no less. His queue was always long, his reputation for uncanny accuracy growing with each sunrise. It was on one such ordinary day that the world shifted on its axis. A woman stepped through his door, and the chaotic symphony of the city outside faded to a dull whisper in his ears. She was a vision, her beauty so profound it felt like a physical blow. "So beautiful," he breathed, the words escaping before he could stop them. In that instant, a feeling he'd only read about in stories, a deep, resonant thrum of connection seized his heart. It was a vibration, a pull, a destiny. Her guard, a stern man with the hardened eyes of a warrior, stepped forward. "Insolence! How dare you be so rude to our lady?" Xiao Fan, usually so composed, was flustered. But the lady simply raised a hand, a flicker of amusement in her eyes. "It's all right," she said, her voice like cool silk. "Let's see if his fortunes are as sharp as his tongue." She intended to draw a lot, but the day's 3 slots were already taken. When he politely but firmly turned her away, her intrigue only deepened. "Who does he think he is?" her guard muttered as they left. "Should I deal with him?" "No," she replied, a thoughtful smile playing on her lips. "A man who holds to his principles, even in the face of temptation, is interesting. We will see." This woman, who called herself Qin Mengyu, was in truth Fang Qingyu, the reigning empress of the Tianxuan dynasty. She was the most beautiful woman in the land, a title that paled in comparison to the reality of her presence. She had come in disguise, curious about the whispers of a fortune teller who seemed to know the unknowable. His refusal to break his rules for her, a courtesy not even the highest ministers would deny, impressed her far more than any flattery could have. "A man who respects rules," she later mused to her confidant. "I find that rather refreshing." She ordered her people to watch him, but not to interfere. Xiao Fan, however, was left reeling. "Who marries her is blessed for 8 lifetimes," he sighed, watching her depart. Then a spark ignited within him. Wait, why should it be someone else? He was no ordinary man. He possessed a system, a metaphysical interface that granted him skills and power in exchange for accumulated points. He was the master of his own fate. "I have a system. I am her future." A sudden practical thought grounded him. He needed a house to propose marriage. A house required money, and his current income, 1 silver tael per fortune, was painfully slow. "System," he commanded in his mind, "how many points do I have?" "Host, you have 11,008 accumulated points." "Feng Shui should be more profitable," he decided. "Exchange for Feng Shui Master." Instantly, a torrent of knowledge filled his mind, the flow of qi, the balance of elements, the art of harmonizing man and environment. His newfound skills immediately revealed a chilling truth. The rundown room he rented was a hung jai, an inauspicious dwelling where death had occurred. Living there long-term was a slow-acting poison. The revelation came just as his greedy landlord, Cao Hao, arrived to demand a rent increase. "This broken-down house, and you want to raise the rent?" Xiao Fan scoffed, his new knowledge giving him a sharp edge. "Someone died in this house. You should be reducing the rent, not increasing it. Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Cao Hao's blustering facade crumbled. "Superstitious nonsense. If you don't want to rent, then get out, and I'm keeping your deposit." The landlord, a low-level martial artist, puffed out his chest, threatening to break Xiao Fan's legs. Xiao Fan considered using his points to become a martial emperor for a moment, an overwhelming force that would crush this petty tyrant. But it was a waste of precious resources. There were smarter ways. "Fine," he said with a chilling calm. "I'll move out. You can keep the deposit. But when you come begging for my help later, you had better bring enough money." Before he left, Xiao Fan made a few subtle adjustments to the room's layout. A slight shift of furniture, a repositioning of a hanging charm. He transformed the inauspicious house into a place of greatly inauspicious fortune, a vortex of bad luck. Cao Hao, smugly counting the deposit money, soon discovered the consequences. A roof beam cracked and fell, narrowly missing his head. A stray dog viciously bit his leg. He tripped on a loose floorboard, twisting his ankle.
Misfortune plagued him at every turn, each incident echoing Xiao Fan's calm, prophetic warning. The man who had sneered at superstition was now living in a waking nightmare of it. Meanwhile, Xiao Fan used his earnings to rent a beautiful new house near a river, its feng shui pristine and nourishing. His business thrived. He helped a frantic old man locate his kidnapped grandson simply by giving him an address to take to the authorities. The child was found exactly as he'd predicted, and the old man's tearful gratitude echoed through the crowd, solidifying Xiao Fan's reputation as a true master. His fame, however, also attracted challengers. A man named Zhang Qingyan, the first customer of the day, swaggered in, determined to expose him as a fraud. "Don't bother with your usual tricks of asking vague questions to trick people," Zhang Qingyan sneered. "Just tell me my fortune." Xiao Fan looked at him, his gaze penetrating. "Zhang Qingyan, 25 years old. The year you were born, your mother died in childbirth. Your foster father passed away 2 years later. You were adopted by your father's sworn brother, Mr. Zhang. You are currently at odds with them because they wish to make their biological son the heir. Is this correct?" The blood drained from Zhang Qingyan's face. How? How did you know? You investigated me." "If I had investigated you, how would I know you would be the first to draw a lot today?" Xiao Fan replied calmly. "I will offer you one piece of advice. The grace of raising a child you did not birth is a debt that cannot be repaid in 100 lifetimes. Your foster parents have been good to you. Learn to be content." Enraged and exposed, Zhang Qingyan stormed out, refusing to pay the one-tael fee. "I want to see what kind of retribution I'll face for not paying a charlatan," he yelled. "Good words cannot persuade a ghost bent on dying," Xiao Fan murmured, unperturbed. The retribution came swiftly. Zhang Qingyan, a gambling addict, went straight to the casino and, in a single hour, lost 2 months' worth of winnings and fell 2,000 taels into debt. Crushed, he returned home only to have his foster father confess the very truth Xiao Fan had revealed. He was, indeed, an adopted son. The world he knew had been a lie, and the fortune teller he called a fraud had seen the absolute truth. Humbled and terrified, he returned the next day, not only with the fee, but with profound respect. The saga of the greedy landlord, Cao Hao, also reached its inevitable conclusion. Plagued by escalating misfortune and physical injury, he finally came crawling back, his arrogance shattered. "Heavenly Master Zhao, please, I was wrong. Forgive me," he begged, his face a mask of desperation. "Helping you is possible," Xiao Fan said coolly, the memory of the man's threat still fresh. "Adjusting the feng shui will cost 3,000 taels, not one less." The price was exorbitant, a punishment for his greed and insolence, and Cao Hao, fearing for his very life, paid it without another word of protest. Zhao Fan's abilities were now drawing attention from the highest echelons of society. One day, a man named Chen Ping'an came to him, his eyes haunted by a 5-year-old grief. He wanted to know who had murdered his son. Zhao Fan's divination revealed a story far darker than a simple murder. 6 years ago, your wife fell to her death. You thought it was an accident. It was not. She was pushed. 5 years ago, your 4-year-old son was pushed into a well and drowned. The killer is the same person for both, Wei Tai, the eldest son of the powerful Wei family who held a grudge against you for scolding him in public once. As he spoke, a man in the crowd tensed. Zhao Fan's gaze snapped to him. And he sent you, a high-level martial artist, to silence Chen Ping'an for good, didn't he? Before the assassin could react, a calm, authoritative voice cut through the tension. Seize him. It was Chen Mengye. Her guards, swift and efficient, subdued the assassin. Take him to the authorities, she commanded. The truth will be investigated. To Chen Ping'an, she said gently, Sir, if what Master Zhao says is true, the government will see that you get justice. Deeply moved by the man's tragic story and his 5 years of lonely persistence, Zhao Fan offered Chen Ping'an a job as his shop assistant, giving the broken man a new purpose. This act of compassion, witnessed by the Empress, further solidified her opinion of him. He was not just powerful, he was good. Later, she found him alone. Master Zhao, she said, you are not a cultivator. Aren't you afraid of the Wei family's revenge? I simply say what needs to be said, he replied, his gaze steady. As for offending the Wei family, if they want to deal with me, they will have to pay a very high price. His courage was breathtaking.
That day, he finally worked up the nerve to ask, Miss, may I know your name, and do you have a betrothed? A playful, knowing smile graced her lips. If Master Shao is asking, does it mean you've taken an interest in me? If so, you'll have to work very hard. My family name is Qin. My given name is Meng Ye. Qin Meng Ye. The name was like a melody. In the imperial palace, news of the Wei family's atrocities reached the Empress. She ordered a full investigation, her fury cold and absolute. A noble family that behaved with such lawless cruelty was a cancer in her empire. And Zhao Fan had brought it to light. He had asked if she was spoken for. The audacity of the man was as immense as his talent. She found, to her own surprise, that she was not displeased. However, her status was a gilded cage. The Empress Dowager, her mother, was already pressuring her to marry for political stability, to choose a consort from one of the great noble families. The Empress has always married from the great houses, her mother reminded her sternly. To break this rule is to invite their collective opposition. You cannot be willful. Fang Chenyu thought of the small fortune-telling shop, of the man with clear eyes who followed his own rules and dared to ask for her name. The idea of a political marriage to some bland, calculating nobleman felt like a death sentence. Her life was a tapestry of duty and disguise. By day, she was the Empress, navigating the treacherous currents of the court. On her stolen afternoons, she was Qin Meng Ye, a mysterious noble lady intrigued by a fascinating fortune-teller. The two worlds were drawing closer, and she knew a collision was inevitable. Zhao Fan, meanwhile, was piecing together clues about the woman who had captured his heart. The name Qin, the guards with martial prowess, it all pointed to a powerful family. The most likely candidate was the Qin Prince's Mansion, a noble house known for its loyalty and low profile. The daughter of a prince? A princess? The thought was daunting, but it did not deter him. No matter her status, he vowed to himself, I will find a way to marry her. His resolve was soon tested. A spurned suitor of a young lady Xiao Fan had advised, Zhang Hui of the powerful Zhang family, arrived at his shop with thugs intent on wrecking the place. You, what nonsense did you say to my fiancé? Zhang Hui snarled. Before his men could lay a hand on anything, Qin Mengye appeared, as if from nowhere. The business of Master Xiao is my business, she declared, her voice ringing with an authority that brooked no argument. And who are you? Zhang Hui scoffed, not recognizing the Empress in her simple attire. You should know, she said, her eyes flashing dangerously, that even your grandfather would not dare to provoke me so easily. Now, get out. There was something in her bearing, a weight of innate power that made the thugs freeze. Zhang Hui, though arrogant, was not a complete fool. He and his men retreated, muttering threats. The incident was reported back to the Empress, who was furious. The Zhang family's arrogance was another sign of decay among the nobility. She sent a secret order to the real Qin prince. Teach the Zhang family a lesson they won't forget. That night, the Qin prince himself, a formidable warrior, descended upon the Zhang estate and personally administered a severe flogging to both Zhang Hui and his father. The message was clear. The fortune-teller, Xiao Fan, was under the protection of a power they could not afford to challenge. Xiao Fan, unaware of these high-level machinations, simply believed that his beloved Mengye had a very powerful family. His heart swelled with a mixture of awe and determination. He had to become worthy of her. His chance came in the form of the imperial examinations, the cornerstone of the empire's bureaucracy. A desperate scholar named Lu Bin drew a lot. Xiao Fan's divination revealed a terrible injustice. Lu Bin was brilliant enough to pass, but his exam paper would be switched, his spot stolen by a less worthy but better connected candidate. This fraud, he knew, was a rot that went to the very heart of the dynasty. He told Lu Bin the truth, urging him not to despair. The information, relayed through Qin Mengye's channels, reached the Empress's ears. Examination fraud was an attack on the very meritocracy she sought to uphold. It was a slap in her face. An investigation was launched, and a vast conspiracy led by the Minister of Rights himself was uncovered and ruthlessly purged. For his role in uncovering the plot, Xiao Fan was rewarded by imperial decree. He was granted the official title of Heavenly Master, a rank that came with the extraordinary privilege of not needing to kneel before officials or in the presence of an imperial edict. The humble fortune-teller was now a recognized figure of the state. The points from his system skyrocketed. He was one step closer to his goal. But a darker storm was gathering on the horizon. Xiao Fan's divinations began to show him glimpses of a wider, more sinister plot. He foresaw a freak, unnatural blizzard that would devastate the northern provinces in the middle of summer. He knew it wasn't a natural disaster, it was an act of malice. Without hesitation, he liquidated his newfound wealth, donating a massive 100,000 taels of silver, and rallied the city's wealthy merchants, like the grateful Guo family, to organize a massive relief effort, sending food, fuel, and clothing north before the first snowflake fell. His foresight saved countless lives. This act of immense public good reached the Empress Dowager. Her skepticism about Xiao Fan was warring with the undeniable evidence of his abilities. Still, she believed him to be a commoner, an unsuitable match for her daughter, the Empress. She decided to test him, to expose his presumed lack of refinement. She arrived at his shop disguised as a wealthy matron, accompanied by a young man named Lu An, a famed scholar praised for his mastery of the four arts: zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. "My young nephew is to be married," the Empress Dowager said, her tone dripping with condescension. "But first, I'd like to see if this famed heavenly master is more than just a street corner soothsayer. Lu An, perhaps you could have a scholarly exchange with him." Xiao Fan saw the challenge for what it was: a public humiliation. Qin Mengye, who was also present, looked at him with concern. He gave her a reassuring smile. "System," he thought, "give me master-level poetry and calligraphy." The first contest was poetry. "Since the examinations are near," Mengye suggested, "let the theme be the encouragement of learning." Lu An labored over his poem, carefully crafting each line. Xiao Fan simply picked up his brush and, in a fluid, powerful script that was a work of art in itself, wrote, "At the third watch, the lamp still burns. At the fifth, the rooster crows. This is the time for a young man to study. Black hair knows not the need for diligence. White hair will lament its late learning in vain." The poem was simple, profound, and penned in a flash. The Empress Dowager was stunned. Lu An, his face pale, accused him of plagiarism. "Fine," Xiao Fan said, unruffled. "You set the next theme." "Autumn," Lu An snapped. Again, Xiao Fan's brush danced across the paper. "Since ancient times, autumn has been met with lonely sorrow. But I say the autumn day is better than spring. A crane soars through the clear sky, breaking the clouds, stirring my poetic soul to the highest heavens." The verse was bold, transcendent, and utterly original. Lu An was speechless. His own poem felt clumsy and bleak in comparison. "This contest is over," Xiao Fan stated. "One victory was all that was required." But the Empress Dowager, frustrated, pushed for more. So Xiao Fan sat at a zither and, with a thought to his system, unleashed a melody so powerful and complex, so full of passion and fire, that it left everyone breathless. It was a divine composition, played with the skill of a grand master. The Empress Dowager and Lu An left, utterly defeated. Xiao Fan had proven he was no uncultured charlatan. He was a man of profound and mysterious talents. That evening, he and Mengye shared a meal he cooked himself, another skill purchased from the system. The food was exquisite, fit for a king. "How many more secrets are you hiding?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "You have a lifetime to find out," he replied softly. He was about to confess his feelings more deeply when she grew serious. "Xiao Fan, I may be gone for a month. I have family matters to attend to. If you are in any danger, go to the King Prince's mansion. They will help you." "Mengye," he asked, his heart pounding, "are you the prince's daughter?" She hesitated, the truth a heavy weight on her tongue. Revealing she was the Empress would change everything. The innocent dynamic they shared would be shattered by the weight of the throne. Yes," she lied, the word tasting like ash. He accepted it, his heart soaring. A princess. It was a high bar, but not an impossible one. "I will marry you, Mengye," he promised as she left. The true reason for her departure was far more grave. The unnatural blizzard was the work of Shah Jinyan, the emperor of the neighboring Hefan Empire. He was no mere conqueror. He was a demonic cultivator, a practitioner of forbidden arts who fed on the life force of others. He had already subjugated 5 other kingdoms, turning their rulers into puppets using a sinister blood goo poison. The Tianshuan dynasty was his final prize. His spies had identified Xiaofan as a threat, a heavenly master who could see through his plans. But Sha Jinyan was arrogant. He sent a demonic entity to probe Zhao Fan, a creature of shadow and malice that appeared in his shop one night. Zhao Fan, though unable to fight it directly, saw its nature with his divinatory powers. The creature, surprised by his perception, retreated, but the encounter left Zhao Fan deeply unsettled. Zhao Jinyan's plan moved to its next phase. He used his influence to have the blood goo administered to the Empress Dowager. Her mind clouded, her will subverted, she issued a stunning decree. Her daughter, the Empress Feng Qingyu, would be married to Emperor Sha Jinyan to secure peace and unify the continent. The news spread like wildfire. Zhao Fan was in his shop when the Qin prince, his face grim, burst in. "Zhao Fan, I have terrible news. The Empress, she is being forced to marry the Ha-Qin Emperor." "The Empress? What does that have to do with me?" Zhao Fan asked, confused. "The woman you know as my daughter, Qin Mangyue," the prince said, his voice heavy with urgency. "That is a disguise. She is the Empress Feng Qingyu." The world tilted and shattered around Zhao Fan. Mangyue was the Empress, the impossible, unattainable ruler of the entire nation. Every shared glance, every quiet meal, every promise he had made replayed in his mind, now cast in the blinding light of an impossible truth. Shock gave way to a cold, burning rage. It wasn't just his love being stolen, it was her. She was being forced, trapped. "I'm going to the palace," he said, his voice dangerously low. "It's madness," the prince protested. "The palace is locked down for the wedding. Sha Jinyan is more powerful than anyone knows." "Whether she is Qin Mangyue or Feng Qingyu," Zhao Fan declared, his eyes blazing with a power the prince had never seen. "She is the woman I have chosen. Anyone who dares to take her from me will die." The day of the wedding arrived. The imperial palace was a sea of red silk and tense formality. Nobles from across the continent were gathered, many of them secret puppets of the Ha-Qin emperor. Zhao Fan, smuggled in as the Qin prince's newly adopted son, moved through the crowd, a phantom of vengeance. At the high throne, the Empress Dowager, her eyes glassy and vacant, presided over the ceremony. Feng Qingyu stood beside Zhao Jinyan, her face a beautiful, tragic mask. Their eyes met across the grand hall, and in that instant, she saw not the humble fortune-teller, but a man ready to burn down the world for her. "System," Zhao Fan commanded, his focus absolute. "Exchange for the antidote to the blood goo. Place it in the Empress Dowager's wine cup. 10,000 points deducted, 1,000 points for targeted delivery." The cost was staggering, but he didn't hesitate. As a toast was called, the Empress Dowager raised her cup. The moment the wine touched her lips, the fog in her mind cleared. She looked around, horrified and confused. "Where am I? What is this farce? A wedding? I would never sanction this." Sha Jinyan's smile turned into a snarl. His plan was unraveling. "You dare interfere?" he hissed at Zhao Fan. "A mere fortune-teller?" "She would never willingly marry a demon like you," Zhao Fan's voice rang out, clear and strong. "You, who murdered her father and brother. You, who used black magic to enslave kings." Sha Jinyan laughed, a chilling, inhuman sound. "So you know? What of it? I killed them, yes. I am a demon, yes. Today I will unify this continent, and she will be my empress, willing or not." He unleashed his power. A wave of dark energy washed over the hall. The nobles who had allied with him cried out in terror as their life force was ripped from their bodies, flowing into him like rivers into a black sea. "Your power will complete my ascension," he roared. Feng Qingyu drew a hidden dagger, ready to die rather than submit. But Zhao Fan stepped in front of her. "All this time, all those points," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else, "for you. System," he uttered the final command. "Exchange all remaining points. Give me the power of a martial saint." Points depleted. Cultivation exchanged. Light exploded from Zhao Fan. It was not the flashy energy of a sorcerer, but the pure, condensed power of a warrior who had reached the absolute pinnacle of martial prowess. The air itself buckled around him. Sha Jinyan, who had felt invincible, stared in utter disbelief. "A martial saint? Impossible! I felt no martial talent in you at all." "That," Zhao Fan said, his voice now echoing with immense power, "that is because you were too weak to see it." The battle was short and absolute. The demonic emperor, who had terrorized a continent, was no match for the true power Zhao Fan now wielded. With a single final blow that seemed to tear a hole in reality itself, Zhao Fan obliterated him. Silence descended upon the great hall. The tyrant was dead. The continent was saved.
But it was also leaderless, a power vacuum left in the wake of Sha Jinyan's demise. The representatives of the 5 subjugated nations, now 3, knelt before Zhao Fan. "You have saved us all, Heavenly Master," they proclaimed. "You have slain the demon. You are the rightful ruler. Please lead us." Zhao Fan looked at the bowing crowd, then at Feng Qingyu. "I don't know how to rule a country," he said honestly. "I just wanted to marry my wife." Feng Qingyu stepped forward, her eyes shining with tears of relief and a love so profound it was its own kind of power. She removed the Empress's phoenix crown from her head. "Then let me make it easier for you," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "An emperor cannot marry a reigning empress, so I, Feng Qingyu, hereby abdicate the throne of the Tianshuan dynasty." She turned to him, holding out the crown. "I give it to you, Zhao Fan. Rule in my stead. Unify the lands. Become the greatest emperor in history. I do not want to be an empress. I only want to be your queen." The Empress Dowager, now fully herself, watched her daughter give away a throne for a man. She looked at Zhao Fan, who had appeared from nowhere, who had defied fate, who had saved them all. "I hope," she said softly, "that you will not fail her." "Never," Zhao Fan vowed, taking Feng Qingyu's hand. His gaze was only for her. And so the reign of the heavenly fate emperor began. It was a dynasty born not of ambition or conquest, but from a simple, unshakable truth. A fortune teller had fallen in love with a beautiful woman, and to win her heart, had remade the world.
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the latest update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.